All right, now Mike's going to talk about his experience with AAC, both for himself and for other people that he's met.
My family and I are thankful for AAC because it gave me a way of communicating for the first time in my life. I remember a story that my first grade to sixth grade teacher shared with my home health care aide when she stopped by my house. I always enjoy visiting with Mike because when I had him he didn't have the communication skills he has now. Guys, AAC changed my life and opened many doors for my family and I. I made great friends all over the world. My quality of life is so great because I have a voice. I have been in the AAC community for the last 10+ years, and I have been seeing a lot of adults who have a cognitive disability in the last 5 years get a communication device or a communication app. It is so great to see the list of people who have access to meaningful communication getting bigger and bigger each year. Sometimes it's hard for me to keep up. I am very excited to see what the future will hold for the AAC community.
Yeah, I think Mike makes such a great point about that. Just more and more every year we see more and more doors opening for more and more people as the technology advances, as the knowledge and awareness advances, and as the advocacy continues. So that's really exciting. All right, so then a lot of times at our clinic we get the question of when do you start teaching and when do you use AAC? And so I think what we talk about is any time is the right time if it's a need, and the earlier the better. So just like we were talking about, you know, that communication devices can kind of be like a foreign language, just like we all learn to speak by hearing other people speak around us, or learn to sign by seeing and using sign with other people, or learn to use a device by other people helping and using that device with us. That's how we best learn language, is through that immersion and that early exposure. So we talk a lot about before you understand words, you start using words. Before you understand using symbols on a communication device, you use those with the person. And so starting early is always best, but there's no wrong time. So even if you're meeting a middle schooler, a high schooler, an adult who's never used an augmentative communication system, it's never too late to start. And then I provide this. I won't go through the entire chart, but I put this in the slides because these are things that often come up, these ideas that have been proven not to be the truth through research. But often people will say AAC is a last resort. So let's see if they'll talk, and if they don't talk, then we'll start introducing that. But that kind of goes against that idea of early intervention and giving them supports. Even if a person is going to talk, they'll use speech as their first resort. It's always the fastest, most efficient, most effective communication strategy. So somebody is going to use speech if they can, they'll use signs if they can, and then they have this AAC system as their option as well. So that's that idea that AAC doesn't hinder speech development. Kids won't stop talking if they're going to talk. And so again, I won't go through all of them, but this is just a nice thing to reference if anybody is ever expressing these worries to you. You can point to the research that shows that none of these things have been found to be true through research. Okay, Mike, let's talk about your early history with AAC and your initiative.
Well, Abby, back in our days no one was talking about early intervention for AAC. I got my first communication device in first grade 2001. And it was a big mistake for me, because you needed to spell everything. I didn't like school, and spelling lists weren't my favorite homework to do anyway, so I wasn't going to use that communication device. I don't know of many first graders who know how to spell and would be able to communicate that way, do you?
No.
No one gave up on me. They kept on looking for the right communication device that I could use. Thankfully my school AAC specialist went to closing the gap, and she learned about PRC. This is why I'm working on ideas for state bills for AAC advancement in Wisconsin. One idea is children in birth to 3 program who are nonverbal will have an AAC evaluation and possible trial with a communication device. Our hopes with this idea for the state bill are as follows. Children will be ready for kindergarten with the right communication device. They can be at grade level right away, and when they get to U they can work at a community job. We are still working on this. We are hoping within the next 4 years it will happen.
All right, so here's Mike advocating and being a partner in policy making. So I think that Mike, you just hit the nail on the head, that early intervention piece hasn't been the norm necessarily in history, but Mike is doing really, really great work to advocate for it becoming state law, that individuals who can't meet all their communication needs with speech alone would be getting an evaluation and access to AAC systems as needed. All right, so where can you go to get those supports? Where can you get evaluation? Where can you get treatment and therapy to help learn how to use those systems? So there's one of the handouts that we shared for today is a list of these resources, and one of the issues is that the specialty centers are diminishing. The cost of providing AAC service is exorbitant. It's pricey, it takes a lot of time, and it rightfully should. We are looking at and matching systems to very individualized populations, and they need the time and the attention and the support to learn how to use those systems. But we need advocacy at all levels, the advocacy that Mike's doing, professional levels, through our professional organizations to make sure that it's feasible to maintain these types of services. So our clinic and outreach program are one of the few left that are specifically an AAC program in Wisconsin. But thankfully, there are lots of other therapists and groups who are really embracing the importance of this, and they might not have all the resources they need in terms of the vast library of devices, the vast library of access systems, but they're really willing to help and learn. So I think what we're looking at is how we can become a resource and a hub where people around the state can come to borrow equipment, which, well, we'll talk about the loan libraries and the equipment, or the loan libraries in the state as well, but we also want to be a resource for information and partnering and teaming, because there are lots of therapy providers on that handout who don't have all of the systems to do the eval, but they're more than willing to carry it over and help with the therapy and the learning and the follow-up. There are also university programs at UW-Madison, UW River Falls, and UW-Stevens Point who all do evaluations and therapy with AAC, and they're training the new speech-language pathologists coming out into the field and hopefully widening the knowledge so that we have more AAC competent providers. Are you stuck, Mike? Did you want to say something, or do you want? Yeah? Okay. Do you want me to wait? Or do you want me to keep going?
I think it has to do with maybe the colleges and providers.
Oh,
you want to keep going.
yeah. Is it okay if I finish this slide while you're getting it ready? Okay, great. The other piece is for educational providers to really get well versed in AAC, and we're seeing it more and more. Our Dane County Birth to 3 agencies are doing wonderful things, pairing with us and pairing with the device vendors to borrow systems and help get systems into kids' hands really young and start teaching them how to use those systems. And then for people in Wisconsin and in other states, ASHA has a ProFind search where you can look for providers who put down in their resume that they feel like they're comfortable using and supporting AAC. So that's another great place to look for help with services. Are you stuck? Oh, go ahead.
UWM.
Yeah, so Milwaukee, you're right. Milwaukee does do things related to AAC. I don't think they have a clinic there anymore. Do they? They do. Okay, so Milwaukee is another one of the university programs where there's a clinic, and they're doing a lot of research there as well. Shelley Lund is doing some really great research into like what are the best evaluation methods for feature matching and figuring out the right AAC systems for people, and what are the best ways to teach them. So that's a good point, Mike. And then other resources on the handout include information about the AAC Network, which is what Mike will talk about next, the WISTech program, who have been so great in putting this event on with options, and then the AT libraries in the state. The ATLC is for public schools, but the Wisconsin AT for All library is a place where you can go to see if you can get access to a system if you don't have access already. CISA sometimes has devices that they can loan and use with school districts. WATI is no longer an operating organization in the sense that they like provide services, but they do maintain their website with resources on it. So you can look up WATI and get lots of different resources from them. And then the National Assistive Tech Act Technical Assistance and Training Center, AT3, is a great website. And I would pass it on to other people too if they live in other states, because just like ASHA has the search for professionals across states, the AT3 Center has a search for where is the assistive tech program in your state. So when you search on that for Wisconsin, you learn about WISTech. But in other states, every state by law has to have assistive tech support, and they get funding to help with that. So you can pass that on to others too who maybe are going to other states. And then this is a little more specifics about our programs at the Waisman Center and what we do. So the Communication Aids and Systems Clinic, or CASC, is our outpatient clinic, and it's affiliated with UW Hospital and Clinics. And part of what has made us sustainable over more than 30 years is that partnership. So the hospital being able to help support when we have highs and help support when we have lows is what's made us be able to continue. Green Bay CP Center has a history of doing really great work with augmentative communication, but unfortunately they just shut that program down because of the prohibitive costs and things. And so I think that's one thing that we've really recognized, especially lately, is how blessed we are to have this partnership that helps keep our services and our program going. This program provides clinic-based direct services where we're evaluating and treating individuals who might need some support with matching and learning to use an AAC system. These services are funded through insurance. Some HMO services, insurances will cover them, but then Medicare and Medicaid also cover services. And eligibility is any person, any age, any disability who needs support with AAC. So as long as they have insurance or another capacity to cover the services, we see anyone. The Communication Development Program, on the other hand, is our community-based, and it's an outreach program where we provide more of the support to the team and family around the AAC users. So we're not doing direct services with the user, but we're teaching those around them how to support the system. Previously, this was funded through a contract with Dane County. With the changes that are happening, so the rest of the state has moved into Family Care and IRIS, and Dane County is just catching the wave. So we've just transitioned into that program. And with those changes, the funding from the county is changing, but that service, right now, we are set up to continue services for children through the Children's Long-Term Support Waiver, or CLTS. And we will be providing services for adults through IRIS. We have not been set up with the contracts for the family care agencies. But that program's only in Dane County right now because of the fact that we're going out and it's just hard to get to the whole state. But I think that's another area where we're looking for partnerships with people across the state to maybe do some distance, like tele-practice supports. Yeah, go ahead.
So a concern that I have with referring consumers to CASC is that there's a wait list. Last time I referred somebody maybe 2 months ago, they said there was a year wait list. Is that going to be expected for anybody who tries to sign up for CASC?
That's a great question, and that's an unfortunate, that the truth is that our waiting list is very long. We have a lot of people waiting. What we're trying to do is create channels so because AAC is so complex, the intervention is complex and it can be lengthy. So that's where that partnership piece is coming in. What we're trying to do And right now it's happening internally, and we haven't really branched out across the state yet because we're still trying to get all of our administrators and our funders on board. But what we're trying to do is create a channel where if an individual somewhere in the state had an SLP who was working with them and was willing to carry forward the intervention, we would partner with them and have them come along. We would do the evaluation in conjunction with that SLP to identify the system, identify the language features and the access, and then they would carry forward the rental and the purchase with our support. And so we're hoping to have a channel where if there's somebody who has that support in their local area, we would get them in for an evaluation sooner, knowing that they'd have a very short intervention with us, and then they'd have a great partner who we're helping to finish the pieces, the training and the funding parts of it. Does that make sense? So that's a goal of ours. It's not working just yet, but we're hoping to do that because we do recognize that it's not feasible for people to wait a year to get the supports. And so we're hoping we can build capacity. And if I work with your SLP one time and she does it for one client, and then the next time she has a client, she's that much more comfortable and versed, and we're that much more familiar with each other, and we're just really hoping it builds capacity across the state so that our waiting list gets shorter and less lengthy, but also people in the state feel like, I know what I'm doing and I can do this, and I know that CASC and CDP are there as a resource for me if I need them. So yes, we do apologize for the long wait. All right. So this is another slide that you guys can check out. These are some free and inexpensive apps and low-tech tools that anybody can access. The Tobii Dynavox Compass app is a free 30-day trial for anybody, but speech-language pathologists who are a part of the professional organization can get a free full version for not just 30 days, for unlimited time. Touch Chat is another app that we use a lot because it has really nice language features, and they have a free version that's just $10 plus tax. GoTalk is another app on the iPad where you can customize buttons and pages for an individual, and they will give you up to 5 pages in their free version, and then you can pay to get the full version if it's working. And then Snapscene Lite is another one where you can take a photo and put hotspots on it that speak, and they have a free light version as well. Free low-tech options would be Touch Chat. Similar to the Touch Chat app, they have a flip book that you can download from the website saltillo.com. And another thing that a lot of families and teams will do is if they have the communication app on their iPad but they want low-tech symbols, they'll take screenshots and print them. And then you can cut them apart. You can laminate them. You can stick them up around your house. So those are ways that anybody can get their hands on communication symbols to start exposing, especially if you're working with a young child who's never seen symbols before. We like to talk about that immersion piece, and these can be really good tools to do that. And then the Waisman Center has some resources. You guys are always welcome to contact us. Like we said, we love to build these partnerships across the state, and we see that it's a huge need, and we're hoping that we can just keep building on the relationships we already have with organizations and individuals. But we also have a podcast series that's kind of cool. It was created by our director, Julie Gamrot, and then Jamie Marie Branch was the Augmentative and Alternative Communication clinical supervisor at UW-Madison's graduate program. They created the podcasts, and there are a lot of different topics. I think there are 13 or 14 videos, and they range from 5 to 20 minutes long, depending on the topic. And they're free to watch either by going to our website or by looking in iTunes and searching augmentative communication. And then the other piece that I've said a few times is that our outreach program really is working to build up those consultation and training strategies with individuals and their teams as well as with organizations, because we just really see a need and a hope that we can partner with others in the state to expand the access to AAC. So Mike asked that I put in a little plug. He's going to talk about the Wisconsin AAC Network, but then they've also started developing these regional networks. This used to be a thing. There were regional networks across the state, and then they kind of died out, and now they're coming back. And the idea is that they would host these regional meetings where school professionals and other stakeholders in assistive tech and AAC would come together and identify topics of interest for quarterly meetings where everybody can come together and learn and discuss and meet about these important topics. So Mike, I don't know what all regions have these yet, but there's a brochure about the network. And if you're not sure, you can contact Mike. His email will be at the end of the slideshow. And you can ask Mike and he'll let you know if there's a regional center in your area. Or if you don't have one and you're interested in helping to start one, that might be great too, right, Mike? Okay, cool. So now Mike will talk more specifically about the Wisconsin AAC network.
Sadly, today in Wisconsin, you can count on one hand how many places that we have in the whole state that does AAC evaluation and provide support. Abby talked about the CP Center in Green Bay shutting down earlier this year. I want to add on that because of this, I wonder if they have a way of supporting their AAC needs during the day. I think it is safe to say most adults who has a cognitive disability, they might not know how to add words to their communication device. Adults and their family members need to get support too. We have an amazing state organization that I started and co-run called Wisconsin AAC Network. The network is for everyone ages 0 to 99, plus, to get the support they need on their AAC journey. We do quarterly newsletter, we have a Facebook, we have a group on FB for family members, and we just started this spring outings group for AAC communicators to use their communication device out in the community. We also have a society for AAC called the United States Society of Augmentative Alternative Communication USSAAC.
Or USAC. All right. So then we're going to wrap up with kind of the philosophical question of why is AAC important? And then we want to have some time to do some discussion with you guys. So I think one of the things that we talk about at our clinic when we're working with a family who's not sure whether they need AAC, they or their the person that they love and support needs AAC, we talk about that we don't have a crystal ball and we don't know how a person's speech is going to develop, but there's lots of research going on both at the Waisman Center and across the country and the world related to this. But in the meantime, we talk about the importance of starting early and just using AAC as much as possible if there's any question about whether or not a person's speech or sign language or another method will work for them to meet all of their communication needs. So we want to really point out that AAC is a great way for using expressive communication for some people, but it's also a complement to speech and language development. It enhances the usefulness of speech and language that might be somewhat dysarthric. It helps prevent communication failure and reduces frustration as a backup strategy or as a primary strategy. And then we like to talk about the fact that AAC and speech are not mutually exclusive. You don't have to choose one or the other. So if you see a person who's doing some speaking but they can't meet all their needs with speech alone, that's a great time to introduce AAC. And it's also a tool for supporting effective communication and just general cognitive and social development. So just like we talked about earlier where we're really matching a language system with an individual, I just want to go back to really reiterating the importance of language development. So stopping at a device where a person can push a button and it says a message that's pre-programmed by someone else is not enough. We need to give resource for learning language and a route to learn how to initiate and express what that individual wants to express, when they want, where they want, the way that they want to. And that's where selecting a system that's feature matched to their needs, that offers the opportunity to participate, and then providing those repeated modeling and exposure learning opportunities is so essential in order for somebody to be able to access language. Another importance of communication is just that it's a basic human right. And if you ever are in a situation where you or someone you know is not being offered the opportunity to use communication, there's a great resource called the National Joint Commission has put out the Communication Bill of Rights. And here's a quote from it about how no matter what disability or the extent or severity that a person might experience, they still have the right to communicate. And so the link here takes you to the full document, and I think it's a really great tool just to reference if you need support advocating for AAC. The other thing that we often talk about in Wisconsin is that, and I think this is important across the country, but I think Wisconsin really personifies and really presents that this is essential. Every single person should have the right to participate in their community and to be self-directed. And so I won't read all these quotes, but the resources on the bottom, if you guys want to check out the information about these arguments for why community participation and why self-determination are so important and so that we should be supporting it for everyone. And that these are also advocacy tools for AAC, because when you read these, you just think about the ability and opportunity to communicate to make personal decisions, the ability and opportunity to communicate choices and exercise control, the authority to control resources and obtain services. Everybody has the right and should be offered the opportunity to do those things, and communication is the key to help them do that. So we're going to close with Mike giving you guys kind of his ideas about why communication is so important, and then we'll have some discussion.
Finally, we want to talk about why this topic is so important to us and why we care a lot. For myself, I use it, but it has always been about the families who are in need of support and the professionals who don't know what to do, and they are trying their best to help. I have many stories to share, and I know that Abby have many stories, but we want to leave time for any questions and discussion, so we picked a few that drive home the importance of AAC. Earlier this year I was at a disability event, and I was talking to a grandparent about AAC. And they said my grandchild don't have any thoughts. Guys, their grandchild is just 4, and they believe that. How do you think that family's beliefs shape that child's communication? I can't tell you how many families that I run into who tried AAC when their child was 4, and it didn't work out, so the family and the team forgot all about it, and all of them said the student isn't right for AAC. Let's go into the future with the same child. They are 45 years old, never got second AAC evaluation. What do you think their quality of life is? This person could have been me. My team had every reason to give up on me, but they believed in me and kept looking for my voice. In closing, we are all here because we want to promote AAC, so everyone has a voice in Wisconsin.